David's gone for the week, and I have cleaned my house and sorted out laundry and thrift store clothing, even washed my keys and my watch, and so I'm a little bored. And so I decided to make a recipe of a thing that I only tasted once, but it was so delicious that I wanted to do it again. I wanted to have my own recipe. I have almost all the ingredients except for a couple of critical pieces, which I went on the web and found out how to make your own. Belgian sugar is what it is, or pearl sugar. Anyhow, so I'm going to make a little video about making these. They are called Liege or Liege waffles. They're very different than the regular ones. They are more made with a yeast dough. They're very small, and they can be kind of chewy and buttery instead of the light, fluffy, crispier waffles that we sometimes call Belgian waffles. So I have gathered all my ingredients, and we'll just begin. So the first thing I need to do is I need to mix yeast, which I am using 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, or 1 packet if you buy it by the packet. And then sugar to help with that. And so I have already measured out my 1 1/2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. The 1/3 cup of lukewarm water. And we will get our yeast mixture started. I just mix that up a little bit so it can integrate in with the yeast and the sugar. Alright, that's looking good. And that has to sit now for 15 minutes so that it can develop with the yeast and the sugar. I'll come back and so I'm going to add my 2 cups of regular all-purpose flour into the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to make a little well with my hands, just enough to make a place for the yeast mixture to go. And I'm just going to add the yeast into that well. See how nice and puffy it is? It's foaming out of the bowl. And I'm going to begin to mix it then. So I'll drop this in and just start it mixing. Just a nice, general, soft mix. You know, it's not a lot of product in there. So the next thing we do is we're going to add our eggs. Now we have 3 regular eggs. I've let them set out for room temperature, and they're just perfect. We add them 1 at a time. So we'll just crack that in. That dough mixture. I love my kitchen. Everything is at hand and easy. This recipe actually has a lot of butter and sugar, so it's not for the faint of heart when it comes to calorie counting. Alright, that's mixing up nicely. So now I'm going to just get that up a little bit. And at this point, I am going to add my butter. Now it calls for a cup of butter. I told you it wasn't light cooking. A cup of butter, but you add them a tablespoon at a time. Now these are already pre-softened. See how easy I can squeeze that. So I'm just going to pre-soften. I'm going to add the pre-softened butter to that mixture. Okay, it's getting nice and sticky, so we'll just add it a spoon at a time here, and that'll. Amy's mixer is missing 1 little foot, and so it kind of jumps. I should have done something about that earlier. So this is a lot of butter. And I shouldn't be doing this considering I had an heart event. we won't say anything else, but it'll work. Now it's beginning to get sticky enough that it's starting to look like a dough that is kneading, getting ready to knead is what I'm saying. If I had half a brain, I could do this better, but I seem to forget quite a bit. So, wow. I hadn't actually ever made this recipe, and I just feel like it's going to be butter sticks. So, there's the butter. And I'm going to kick that up just a little bit more, just to let that thing really start getting the butter in with the flour and the eggs. And at this time, I'm also supposed to add a teaspoon of regular vanilla. I use McCormick's Pure. That just adds that nice flavor to the dough. Now, some recipes call for a teaspoon of cinnamon at this point, but I don't really, I'm tired of a lot of cinnamon food. So it says it's optional, and I'm going to leave it out. And I'm going to let that just mix until it is well mixed. And it's looking pretty well mixed. I'm just going to scrape those sides down a little bit. But all that yeast in there with such little amounts of flour should make these very yeasty tasting. I love this. Amy doesn't even know I'm borrowing this. She uses it quite a bit. Yeah, that's looking really good. And so now I'm going to let it mix. I'm going to cover the bowl with saran wrap and let it just rest for another 15 minutes. So it has set for 15 minutes with, you know, I don't know if my camera's at a good angle, but I'll just switch that a little bit like that. It has set for 15 minutes just resting. And I had it covered tightly with a piece of saran wrap. So now I'm going to take it off and show you what the consistency looks like. See, it's like a dough. All right. So that is our consistency that we were wanting. Oh, I love dough. Gotta have that. Now I'm going to take 1 cup of my homemade pearlized Belgian sugar. And I'm just going to actually just use my spatula and stir that in gently. You don't want them all clumped together, so you just add it in a bit at a time. And that will add the sweetness, because there is so far no sugar in this dough, except for what it took to help the, the yeast rise. So this will be the unique sweetness that comes with the Liege style waffles. Now, if you buy the commercial ones, they are very white and uniform in size. I would have had to order it online from Amazon, and I didn't have time. I just wanted to do this today for my friend's dinner. And so I just made these, and I'm sure it'll be even better if I ever get around to ordering the lovely uniform-sized white ones. But sometimes I think, you know, a little caramelizing of the sugar adds that just delicious taste. So we'll see. We'll see which one after I make another batch. All right. So now I've got that all stirred up, and I'm going to let it rest again. Everything needs to just be very rested, and that helps improve its elasticity, because we're going to make little balls, and they're going to be mini ones, because I have gotten so many recipes off the internet for this, and most of them make it for 6 waffles, but I have already pre-committed myself to going down to my friend's house and bringing dessert tonight, so I need 8. So I'm going to make them a little smaller than they actually are, but my waffle iron is heating up. And also on the waffle irons, the standard ones sometimes don't have adjustable heat, and obviously it would have been better if it was one of the Belgian waffles that have the deeper wells. But my Cuisinart is a regular waffle maker, and it is got 5 settings. So I want to try it out at about a 2 or a 3, because with these types of waffles, you don't want them to get crisp right away. You want them to be sort of baked, just like a bread would need to bake. So I'm going to start it out at about a 2 or 3, and then actually I'm going to brush the waffle iron with more butter, because one thing about adding the sugars in is that they will, if they're outside of the dough, sort of burn onto the waffle iron, and I guess that would be a hard thing to get off. So. Okay, so it's set for 15 minutes, just resting, and I'll show you what it looks like. It is very doughy, I mean, the texture of dough, and I don't know if you can see because mine are not pure white, but there are chunks of that sugar all down in there. So that is what the dough will look like. Now, I have preheated my waffle iron, and since I'm making smaller ones, I'm going to use this little, I think this is a 1-inch scoop. I don't know. Something, but it's not very big. So it's going to be a little thicker than that. So my, oops. My butter got a little warm. All right. So I'm going to just take a nice dough ball full and place it right back there. And then another one in this corner. I maybe should have been making just 2 of these at a time. Well, we'll see how these stick together, and then I'll make the other ones with more space. All right. So I'm just going to let that press down on its own. And I think maybe 2 minutes. I will check it though. But let's just go for 2 minutes. So I've been tasting the dough as I've been making it, and it's tasting pretty close to what I remember that Belgian waffle maker at the Short North in Columbus had. And they were so good, so what's not to like, you know? It's mostly butter and sugar. Okay, my Cuisinart, actually, that's right about 2 minutes, and it was saying that they were done. And let me see if I can show this to you. So it looks like my little Liege waffles are going to turn out. I think I can use a little bit more batter, because these are almost like cookie size. But it was my first time to put in the waffle iron, but it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to use a little more batter this time and just see how it goes. All right, that temperature seems about right. So it's right between the 2 and 3. They're all done. And everything I read on the internet about making these is that make sure you clean your waffle iron after it's starting to cool down, because you will never get that sugar off again. So I just used a paper towel and my fork, and I just went around in here and just cleaned up all the sugar parts out. And I'm sure that's going to make a big difference for my future batches. Anyhow, so those are done, nice and cleaned up and ready to be put away. And I have the finished product here. And they look great. They look very similar to the ones I was expecting. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I have 20, of course, but they are varying sizes. So you can see that that is how they look. All right, I have no help doing this camera work, so you guys just have to bear with me. But they're going to be great, and one of the favorite things I like to do, or I like to see at the end of a show, is when they plate it up. So that I have tasted these, so I'm just going to put a couple of, they're still warm, I'm going to put a couple of these on a plate. And then I'm just going to, I'm going to do the simple waffle thing for Belgian waffles because they're so delicious all by themselves. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this powdered sugar over them. All right, guys, there it is.